How did we end up paying for things with a piece of plastic? How did we go from exchanging salt, grain, and cattle to paying with the tap of a phone? The credit card didn't just change how we buy things, but it changed how we think about money, understand value, convenience, and trust. Today, cash is fast, invisible, and endlessly available, or at least it feels that way. But the story of how we got here is much older and much more human than it seems. This evolution shaped modern society and how we function to this day, and will continue to progress as we know it. Before money existed, people used bartering to exchange goods and services. A person offered what they had, such as grain, livestock, or handmade tools, in exchange for something they needed. Bartering worked on direct trade, but it wasn't always practical. Both sides needed to want what the other person offered, and they needed to agree on the value of those items. This made larger and long-distance trade difficult. The limitations of bartering created the need for something more universal, a shared measure of value that everyone could recognize and trust. Ancient civilizations solved this by introducing currency. The Mesopotamians used silver and barley. The Chinese used cowrie shells. And around 600 BCE in Lydia, what is now known as Turkey, the world saw the first minted coin. For the first time, a value was agreed upon. Standardizations made trade easier, travel easier, and wealth easier to store. Later, societies refined currency into paper money and gold-backed systems, trying to value scarcity, government power, and trust. But currency wasn't just a tool. It became a symbol of status, empire, class, and control. Fast forward to the late 1800s. Stores began using charge coins, which were small metal tokens that customers used to buy goods on credit. This was one of the earliest forms of personalized currency. You didn't need to pay immediately, you just had to promise that you would. But these coins could only be used at the same store that issued them. The idea of money was shifting again from something you owned to something you owed. By the late 1920s and 1930s, large companies like Sears and Mobil introduced store cards. These cards went universal, but they encouraged customers to buy from the same business repeatedly. Gas stations especially relied on them because fuel had low profit margins, so encouraging loyalty mattered. Money was now tied not to just value, but to corporate loyalty and customer identity. In 1950, everything changed. A man named Frank McNamara forgot his wallet at a restaurant, and that moment sparked the idea for the Diner Card Club, which was the first card usable at multiple merchants. This was the very first time a piece of plastic didn't represent money itself, but the promise of money. Not cash, but trust became a foundation of payment. In 1958, Bank of America introduced the first widely issued bank credit card, known as the Bank AmeriCard. For the first time, credit was not limited to one store or company. The bank itself extended purchasing power to customers. This shifted the system for local or merchant-based trust to institutional trust. Instead of paying immediately, customers now pay later to a bank with added interest. Credit was no longer just a convenience, it became a financial structure tied to everyday life. In the 1960s and 70s, credit card systems expanded. Banks formed networks and partnerships, making the cards usable across regions and eventually across countries. Bank AmeriCard later became what we know today as Visa, and a group of competing banks formed what became MasterCard. Technological additions such as the magnetic strip enabled cards to be processed electronically, increasing speed and reliability. Credit cards were now standardized, widely accepted, and globally integrated. By the late 1990s and early 2000s, credit cards helped aid the rise of online shopping. Purchases no longer required a physical presence. Translation took place through digital systems and encrypted networks. As spending money moved online, money became increasingly abstract. This exchange was still there, but the physical act of handing over cash was gone. This changed how spending felt on a personal level. Today, many payments are made without cards at all. In fact, some people don't even carry physical cards anymore because their phones act as mobile wallets. Services like Apple Pay, Apple Cash, Google Pay, Venmo, and Zelle allow money to move instantly through digital wallets. Payments are contactless, fast, and integrated into everyday devices. At the same time, digital payments generate data, information about habits, locations, and financial behavior. Money has become convenient but less visible. The shift to digital payments has brought both benefits and challenges. On the positive side, digital credit card systems have increased accessibility. People can make purchases without needing cash on hand. Payments are fast, secure, and widely accepted. Digital wallets reduce the risk of theft and make it easier to send money or receive it as well. But there are also negative impacts. When payments feel effortless, spending money becomes less intentional. Credit card debt has grown as purchasing becomes fast and less visible. Digital payment systems also create data trails. Every transaction is recorded, stored, and analyzed. Financial systems can track where we go, what we buy, and how we live. The convenience of digital money relies on large financial institutions and technology companies. This means our relationship to money is increasingly tied to systems that we do not control. As payments become more digital, the meaning of money shifted from something physical to something managed through networks, algorithms, and databases. Credit cards and digital payments have made everyday transactions effortless, but as money becomes less visible, its meaning changes. We no longer exchange something we physically possess. We authorize the transfer of data, and the history of the credit card shows how payments have shifted from objects to cards and to networks. And in that shift, our relationship to spending has become more abstract. When money is easy to move, it becomes easy to use and easy to lose track of. The development of the credit card is not just a financial story, it's a story about trust, access, and the systems we rely on every day.